And as the Cahirlock said, it's great to be back home. It's great for me to be back home.
Boy, is it a bad look to hear the Prime Minister of Canada call Europe his home. I guess so much for the elbows up Canadian pride. Oops, it's true, I forgot. The only pride allowed in Canada is the colorful one. But you can rest assured that while he was in Ireland, gaffes were made and lies were told. So we'll take a look at that. The UK also announced that they were banning social media for those under 16, which makes me wonder who's really calling the shots and why are so many countries following the same agenda? So the UFC was at the White House and it inadvertently shined a light on how classless Canadians have become. You won't believe it when I show you. My name is Eli Daniel and this is The Right Call. Like, share, subscribe, hype this video up. Any interaction on this channel helps push the truth out and maybe someday help break that CBC-induced coma that so many Canadians are under. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button because you don't want to miss what the media won't show you.
Because today is a big moment for our country. This is a big step. Real change for our children and our future. Because today, I can announce that the government will ban access to social media for all children under the age of 16.
Considering that the UK, Australia, Canada are supposed to be sovereign countries, isn't it a bit odd that all these governments are pushing the exact same internet legislation agenda at the same time? And this isn't the first time either. You know, Bill C9, the hate speech law, the law that's going to jail you up to life in prison for your dank memes on social media. Well, it's a carbon copy, a mirror image of a law that was passed in the UK already, which has led to the UK government arresting upwards of 15,000 of their citizens per year for their posts online. Anyways, you may not want to admit this, but it seems like something outside of our governments is making the decision, and our elected officials are just puppets in all of this. Yeah, I know, conspiracy theory, but like we saw in last episode, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? 6 months.
Come over to you, Isabella. Tell me how you felt when you heard the Prime Minister say no more social media for you.
I didn't think it would actually happen. I kind of believed that he'd chicken out of it and give it more time or more consideration, but he seems pretty sure of it, and I'm not sure if I agree with him.
Well, looks like it's Isabella's first foray into the reality of an ideologically driven government. Their agenda will be rammed down your throat, come hell or high water. At least she's learning it at an earlier age than I did. Because I remember being 16 years old and watching Jack Layton on TV thinking, if I could vote, I'd vote for the NDP. God, I'm glad I did not have the right to vote then. So I was shocked to see this, but for once, the Senate is doing its job. Senator Leo Ousakos is asking some very serious questions, which have, of course, yet to have any real answers to.
Yesterday, your government introduced legislation that would prohibit Canadians under the age of 16 from accessing social media unless platforms meet strict government standards. Many parents would agree with that, and children deserve to be protected in terms of online risks. What they can't understand, though, from coast to coast to coast, is why your government continues to support policies that allow minors to access supervised drug consumption sites connected to the use of dangerous narcotics. Senator Moreau, why is your government prepared at all costs to restrict access to social media for minors, which is reasonable, but unwilling to draw a clear line when it comes to exposing young people to environments where hard drugs are being openly consumed?
Yep, the contrast is quite stark, and this is why I know for a fact that this has nothing to do with protecting children. I believe that having unrestricted access to the internet is probably not good for kids, but that is a parental issue. Parents should supervise their kids. I do not trust the government to be managing our kids. I don't trust them to be parenting our kids, nor is it their place anyways. This belongs strictly to the parents. So knowing that they don't really care about protecting our kids, one can only reasonably assume that this is not the reason why they're pushing this ban. Because we can also look at the websites and social media platforms that are being banned. It's not all of them. Take, for example, Blue Sky, which is a radical leftist app that mimics X. It's basically X/Twitter, but for radical leftists. And if you don't support everything they say, if you even so much ask a question, you will be banned. There is no diversity of thought over there. It is quite comedic, by the way. If you really want to laugh your rear off, you gotta go on Blue Sky. It's hours of pleasure. Just don't post. You will be banned. But Australia banned X for children, but not Blue Sky. Britain is banning X, but it will not ban Blue Sky. Best believe that Canada, with Bill C-34, is going to ban X, but I can guarantee you they won't ban Blue Sky. This proves one thing. It's not about protecting children. It's about censorship and controlling the narrative. Because, by the way, this is not being a ban on all kids under the age of 16. This is a ban on everyone from using social media unless you prove your identity. So everyone's banned unless you comply and somehow prove your identity, which will lead to only one thing: uploading your ID online. And now, no more anonymity whenever you use social media, which is, to me, very dangerous. Now, another thing that's very dangerous, and maybe the reason why they're trying to ban social media at all costs, is, well, the following, because it seems that Carney keeps forgetting the internet exists and that we can see everything online.
And as the Cahirlock said, it's great to be back home. It's great for me to be back home.
No wonder he spends so little time in Canada in favor of Europe. His family lives in the US. His entire net worth is in the US. He refers to himself as European. He spends more time outside of Canada than he did in Canada for the last year. But Canadians still think that this man cares about the long-term welfare of our nation. Sure. I'm making a prediction right now and save this video so that you can hold me accountable later on. Unlike the Liberal government, that is. The second Carney is out of office, he is piecing out of Canada, never to set foot back on the continent. I'm calling it right now. He's doing a Trudeau. Well, nothing to see here, folks. This is just our former Prime Minister Trudeau cheering for the American national soccer team while in America with his American girlfriend. No hypocrisy at all.
Yeah. Canadians are hurt. Canadians are angry. We're going to choose to not go on vacation in Florida or Old Orchard Beach or wherever. We're going to choose to try to buy Canadian products and forego bourbon and other classic American products.
Nah, no thank you, Trudeau. I'll just do what you do instead of doing what you tell us to do, and I'll continue to go to the best state there is, Florida. Well, actually, in a month or so, I'll be in Spain, not Florida. But hey, I love going to Florida, okay? And I've also lived in Florida for 2 years. Best 2 years of my life. I'll talk more about it in due time. The sooner you realize that this is all fake, the sooner you'll see the truth. The Liberals love to posture in order to rile up your emotions, strike division, and rally support. But in fact, they don't believe a single word of the things they peddle to you. And sadly, Canadians are slurping it all up and asking for seconds.
Climate change is no longer a warning, it's here. Last month, as you know and you felt, Ireland experienced its hottest May on record. In Canada last year, forests larger than Ireland burned in the drought and heat.
Yeah, it's called summer, broski. And the forest burned because of poor forest management and, oh, yeah, arson. Because, yeah, over 50% of our wildfires are human-caused, and the Liberals have campaigned on buying more water bombers for years, and yet they've done nothing about it. I'm also surprised he didn't make a speech last December to highlight this pesky little fact. It's just Canada recording its coldest December temperature in 50 years. And I quote, "Extreme cold persists in northern Canada, with temperatures ranging from -20 to -40 degrees Celsius for several weeks. On December 23rd, the region recorded its coldest December temperature since 1975. But that doesn't fit the agenda, so don't let those facts get in the way of a net zero zealot pushing his failed ideologies on all of us. It's not like the Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1 stands to benefit massively from these policies. And by the way, the word transition in the Brookfield Global Transition Fund stands for exactly that, a transition to a net zero green economy, in case you didn't know. Speaking of it, being such an environmentalist, you'd think Carney would know how to do this basic task.
Good tree planting is you have to put a bit of soil.
Oh yeah, he's lecturing everyone watching in attendance. This is how you plant a tree. And keep watching because it doesn't go so good. Oh yeah, there you go, Diana Fox. You hold the shovel. That's what you're good for. Oh my God. By the way, if Trump would have done that, I think one time Trump did not hold an umbrella over like Melania's head and the media freaked the hell out. But here, Diana, you keep my shovel.
Yes. Taking the foot. Well, it wasn't. I'm not that many generations. Don't forget your shovel. That was under Christy Moore. Good work.
Can you spot the problem? Yep. He planted that tree in its plastic container. And what a funny analogy for how the government works. I couldn't help myself but point it out. You host a press conference, a photo op, you have a video team there waiting to capture the moment. You plant the tree. Then a worker has to come back after the fact when everyone's gone, unearth the tree, remove the plastic container, and replant the tree correctly. But I mean, who cares? It's just taxpayer money anyways, right?
There has been criticism from the leader of the opposition saying that what Canada already has a trade deal with Ireland, and what you're doing on this leg of the trip is not at all helping Canadian workers whose jobs are affected by tariffs from the United States. I wanted to get your response to that.
Well, we have a couple of things. We have a trade deal with Ireland, but we don't have full ratification of the trade deal with Ireland. So one of the things that, and I want to commend the Taoiseach and the government for putting this in place, is that both houses of the Irish legislature have now ratified that deal. Now,
hate to say it, but Poilievre is damn right once again. Because see, I learned a very important point while running a business. It's the following. 20% of your output is going to account for 80% of your input, aka 20% of the work you put out is going to account for 80% of your results. So let's apply this right now to the situation at hand. Let's look at the trade between Canada and Ireland. It accounts for $6 billion. Okay, Canada exports $1.1 billion to Ireland, while Canada imports $4.9 billion from Ireland. So right then and there, Canada has a major trade deficit. They take more money from us than we get from them by a factor of 6, may I add. Meanwhile, if we compare it to the US, trade between Canada and the US account for $1.3 trillion annually. And this is at the tune of $441 billion exported from the US to Canada and $409 billion exported from Canada to the US. So instead of focusing on getting a trade deal with the United States, which based on my earlier example would account for 20% of the works he puts in, and yet 80% of the result for our country, he's focusing sadly on inconsequential trade agreements. It's not only piss poor management, but it's also horrible work ethics. It's just wasteful. And it's also, well, major incompetency. Now, speaking of the US and Iran have agreed to an interim peace deal that halts all active hostilities and establish a 60-day ceasefire to negotiate a broader framework. This MOU was brokered by Pakistan and is scheduled for a formal signing ceremony in Switzerland.
We got along very well with Iran. It's a different set of leaders. As you know, the first set is gone, the second set is gone, and we found the third set to be very smart, strong, very smart, but we ended up making a deal. I felt badly that we had to go back on the attack for 2 nights, and I thought a third, but we made it before that happened. But I think a lot of great things are going to happen in the Middle East right now, and very importantly, the oil is plummeting down, and the stock market is shooting up like a rocket.
Well, that's an understatement because stocks definitely rallied. The Dow jumped 700 points to a new record, while the S&P 500 climbed to 1.9% and the Nasdaq popped 3%. Meanwhile, the price of crude oil is plummeting. 5% for the WTI crude, 5% for the Brent crude, 7% nearly for the Murban crude. Prices now are hovering around $80 a barrel. Finally, some reprieve from the crazy gas prices. So what did Mark Carney have to say about this announcement?
The peace deal, or the ceasefire deal, the 60-day truce. I know President Trump has worked very hard.
Side note, once again, I hate the fact that he's wearing his Order of Canada pin instead of the flag of Canada. Again, it's such an elitist little note, but are you representing the Order of Canada, this honor that you've been bestowed, or are you the Canadian Prime Minister for all?
For this, as has the Vice President, the Qataris, the Pakistanis, but all the countries in the region supporting this. So Canada very much welcomes this progress. We'll have an opportunity starting from tonight at the G7 in Evian to see what we and other countries can do to help reinforce this important progress that's been made, and also from a broader regional perspective, including in Lebanon and beyond. And I guess the other thing I'd say is that it underscores one of the things we'll work on going forward, when I say going forward from this evening, is how do we make our system, our energy system, our fertilizer systems, our other commodity systems more resilient, so the people of Ireland, the people of Canada are less affected when there is conflict, when there are shocks. And I spoke to President Macron.
Yeah, the best way to do that is to have a booming economy. And it also means to be energy independent, which means, extracting the oil that we have. We've been given a freaking gift. We've won the lottery. We were born on a land filled with oil, the third largest proven oil reserve in the world. And instead of using it, instead of extracting it, instead of being energy independent, we are, oh yes, victims to the whims of foreign nations. Go figure. Yeah, but I guess, again, it doesn't really enter the whole net zero agenda, Carney. Sorry, bud. And is it me, or does it seem kind of sad that the war is ending? You know, you'd expect him to be a little bit more ecstatic about it, right? Like Canadians are finally not going to be crushed under the price of gasoline anymore. Oh, well, maybe it's because he's lost a great scapegoat, something to deflect and to blame on whenever things don't go well in Canada due to his and his government's policy. Oh, well, on to the next. I wonder what liberal CBC is going to spin up as an excuse for the next crisis that we see in Canada, whenever unemployment rate continues to go up or the GDP per capita continues to fall. We'll see what they craft, but they can't blame Iran anymore. What a shame. Now, a first for the US. The UFC event was hosted at the White House, and oh God, was it the most patriotic thing I have ever witnessed. The US just knows how to rally behind their nation. Just a quick update. I'm recording this video way after the fact. I tried to upload my original video twice to YouTube. Copyright strike because of the UFC segments. So I tried doing my best to find something that would do it justice. Not as good, definitely not the right camera angle, but bear with me. I'm sorry about that, guys, but the UFC, Dana White doesn't want me to report on this stuff, which I understand, you know, copyright laws and stuff, but enjoy it nonetheless.
Sunday was fight night on the South Lawn of the White House.
From the South Lawn of the White House, UFC Freedom 250.
To start the event, President Trump and UFC chief Dana White walked from the Oval Office to the balcony to survey the Octagon, standing for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see?
While fighter jets roared overhead.
Oh man, God, I'm not American, and yet this makes me, for some reason, like, want to be American so badly. It's insane. It's just so patriotic. Anyways, back to Canada, though. Of course, CBC had to report on it, and I'll spare you the full report because it's just mostly them finding people to interview that are bashing the entire event, or Trump, or the White House, or the US. Shocker. I know.
Now, Ian, we've been here since the fan zone opened early this afternoon, and so far there have been no major security incidents. It's been busy, but very orderly.
Is it me or Katie over here couldn't hide her disappointment that everything was orderly rather than, I don't know, like chaotic and mayhem? These people really can't hide their bias. It's crazy. Speaking of critics, plenty were politicizing this event, saying that it was unbecoming of the president of the US to host such an event at the White House. Now, of course, I promptly disregarded their silly claims the second I remembered this. It's not even a double standard at this point. It's just patriotism versus whatever the hell that was under Biden. Now, let's bring back Trudeau just for a second. Sorry, I know, but I gotta do this.
And yeah, we're probably going to keep booing the American anthem. But let me tell Americans, we're not booing you. We're not booing your teams. We're not booing your players. We're booing a policy that is designed to hurt us. And we're insulted. And we're angry. But we're Canadian, which means we're going to stand up for each other. We're going to fight. And we're going to win.
Well, as usual, Canadians followed their leaders without question, and they shamefully obliged because at the World Cup, they were caught booing the US flag during the opening ceremony. Meanwhile, this is how Americans treated our national anthem before Zahabi, a Canadian fighter, hit the octagon at the UFC event. Well, like it or not, Americans are showing a lot more class than Canadians have, and it reflects very poorly on our reputation. And it simply makes us look jealous, petulant, arrogant, classless, and angry. Not our finest moment. But hats off to America. Now, if you've enjoyed this report and want to get involved with the channel, aside from liking, sharing, subbing, commenting, or hyping the video, if you want to take it a step further and help financially, well, I have a Patreon. The link is in the description. It's $8 a month, and all proceeds help me spend more time doing research and preparing these episodes and putting out as much content as I can to, hopefully counteract this CBC narrative. If you rather just do a one-time donation, I also have a PayPal link. Everything is greatly appreciated. There's no amount that is too small. For the time being, however, my name is Elliot Daniel, and I'll see you next report.